reading newspapers now and reports, we got the impression that there are the bad guys and the good guys. I think this is not the reality. First of all, we knew from the very start of the EMU that the eurozone was not what we call an optimum currency area. Years before, indeed, the European Monetary Union started, economists, I'm sure the CEPS, pointed to the fact that some eurozone member states were not sufficiently integrated in the European Union economy, that their business cycle was different from that of the core of the eurozone, a lack of labor mobility, small fiscal transfers, and other impediments for a well-functioning currency zone. So we knew that there were problems when we launched the euro. Secondly, Greece joined the eurozone on the basis of incorrect fiscal data, but we have all tolerated that. There was a political decision. Thirdly, we decided an embryo of common economic governance by adopting the pact, the Stability and Growth Pact, but fair to say is that it was not applied. For instance, in 2004, two of the member states, two of the bigger member states, the big boys, the two largest economies of the eurozone, were facing some difficulties and in fact refused obeying to the rule of the pact when they had an excessive debt. And I think this was very important in terms of credibility of the pact. It happened in 2004. Fourth is that I think the available instruments to strengthen the economic convergence with the structural and cohesion policy, that these funds were not enough used, insufficiently used to stimulate real convergence in the eurozone. And the responsibility is always all of the member states of the eurozone European Union. 5, the Lisbon process started quite well, but after a very short period of time, it watered down to what I would call a paper shuffling exercise. I think we have some risks that EU 2020 follows the same path, and we have to avoid that. Last but not least, I think that besides CEPS, of course, nobody warned us, and that moreover that lots of very influential study centers, people told us that there was no problem. I would like to quote the document which was issued by the Commission in June 2008, the so-called EMU at 10, and I quote, "For its member countries, EMU has anchored macroeconomic stability," and other quotes, "and for the world, the euro is a major new pillar in the international monetary system and a pole of stability for the global economy." June 2008. So I think that at that very moment, in fact, all policymakers and all academics subscribe to that analysis, and I think that it's fair to say that at that moment, it's only 3 years ago, nobody had foreseen or could foreseen or had foreseen that there would be such a thing like the euro crisis, which exploded in May last year. Second thesis is that the euro is to the benefit of all of us. I want to be very short about that point. I think that indeed euro is not only a common concern of all member states, but it's also at a benefit for everybody. The economic benefits of a currency union are of course well known and illustrated and measured by the European Commission and others. Most member states, EU member states, we have to face realities, are in fact small countries from a global point of view. They are open economies and they are closely integrated, and so fixed exchange rate systems are of course the optimal choice for most of them. And Belgium is of course an excellent example in case. With Ireland and the Baltic states, the Belgian economy is estimated to be the most open economy in the world, one of the most open economies of the world, and two-thirds of exports, Belgian exports, are oriented towards other Euro member states. And so during its whole history, Belgium always opted for a fixed exchange rate, using once the dollar, once then the ECU as an anchor. But I think that also larger economies, from a European point of view, large economies, even from a global point of view, like the German economy, that it's fair to say that it also benefit a lot from the euro. And so I wonder why the political debate, even during these times in the German Bundestag, is always phrased in terms of costs of the eurozone. However, this part of the subject is very important, but why is it always a debate in terms of cost for the German economy and for Germany? I think one should ask the people of the Bundestag what they prefer. Supporting the euro, the current rescue funds, or breaking up the euro. And I think that the latter solution would entail a sharp appreciation of the German mark, of course, or the German euro, with very important, with huge losses of market shares for the German economy as a consequence. I think that kind of aspects should be more prominent in the debate, in the political debate in Germany. A very recent report of the UBS Investment Research Center recently estimated that the economic cost of a weak country leaving the eurozone would amount to, and I quote, 9,500 to 11,500 euro per person in that country during the first year, and 3,000 to 4,000 euro per person the years after. These are very impressive, huge amounts of money, and this will be reality as a consequence of one of the weaker countries leaving the euro for their citizens, of course. Besides that, of course, the political cost of a country leaving the eurozone is unmeasurable. Risk for disintegration of the European Union, loss of international influence and others. And so for me it is very clear the option of breaking up the eurozone is clearly excluded. If the euro falls, the union can disintegrate, and it's of course very risky with one member, if in case when one member would leave the euro, because nobody can predict nor contain the consequences for the whole of the zone for European banks, and nor is it sure that contagion to other member states could be stopped. Of course, a crisis is also a challenge, and from that point of view, I think that it is fair to say that the European Union and the Eurozone, more specifically, has made more progress during the last year than maybe in a whole of a decade before. First of all, there is the very important EU 2020 and Euro Plus Pact. It is very important, but I think it's also very risky to have this, for instance, the EU 2020 program following the same path of the Lisbon strategy. So that's the reason why I put it first in the ranking of important steps we took. I think that Mr. Barroso and his team were forward-looking when they launched EU 2020 in 2009, and it was a good complementary effort of Mrs. Merkel and Sarkozy to add to that the so-called Euro Plus Pact. I think that indeed higher long-term economic growth is a prerequisite, is a condition to put debt at a sustainable level, and it is also needed to sustain our very typical European welfare states, including viable pensions, social security systems, health insurance systems, and so on. This is, of course, a cornerstone of our socio-economic model here in Europe, or so-called Rhineland model. Secondly, or additionally, we have the Euro Plus Pact that adds extra engagements to, by the Eurozone countries to the EU 2020, and Belgium was the first country to sign up to this pact. It is also very important, I think, that more countries would join us in this supplementary effort. Then the European semester which adds some, increase the peer pressure among member states, and that allows the Commission and Council to deliver their opinion in due time when member states are preparing the drafting of their budget. I think it's a a very important additional instrument, tool for the European Union, the eurozone authorities to influence the financial, budgetary and economic policy in the different member states. We, of course, as a union, were forward-looking when we decided on a new financial supervisory structure, including the European supervisory agencies and the European Systemic Risk Board. I think that the importance, more specifically, of the European Systemic Risk Board is very huge and is still until now underestimated. The Systemic Risk Board should help us preventing new financial bubbles, new real estate bubbles, which for instance caused very clearly the Irish problems and the problems in Spain, just to name two examples. The heads of governments and states have also taken a lot of responsibility, I think we showed some a very strong political will to create new decision-making processes at the level of the 17, though we of course still favor integration with the 27 member states of the European Union, but of course the adoption of a common currency is the basis of a so-called two-speed European Union. Important is that even by doing this kind of work, we still keep in mind that the euro should be open to all member states of the European Union. In that framework, I would like to observe with some interest that the current UK government, British government, encourages the eurozone to strengthen its decision-making process and its currency. I think it is a very positive evolution. We also had the six-pack. Remember, we appointed a task force to draft some proposals strengthening the economic governance. Well, today we have the six-pack. We have the six-pack that strengthens the Stability and Growth Pact and includes the very important procedure on the so-called macroeconomic imbalances. We as a Belgian government, together with the colleagues in Netherlands and Luxembourg, from the start on, we took the common position that sanctions should be applied in an automatic way, and so we were a little bit disappointed by the outcome of the so-called Deauville agreement, but since then we have seen that in the dialogue or the trilogue between Parliament, Council and Commission, that they were able to find a compromise that has been found between the Council and the European Parliament, which is very positive due to the positive attitude also of the French government. Last but not least, we created some new rescue funds. They were created, were improved, increased. Of course, the decision-making process was step by step, and this is one of the weaknesses of the European response, Eurozone response to the financial and monetary crisis. But it is fair to say that now we have, with the extended power and the extended amounts of money in the EFSF, we have now very strong tools to tackle the crisis. We, from the Belgian point of view, we asked the Belgian Parliament to start its work earlier than foreseen in September in order to be able to adopt the new law about the EFSF. It has been adopted, I think, last week, and it would be very positive if the other member states of the Eurozone could do the same before the end of September, because having a council the 17th and the 18th of October without already having ratified in all member states the decisions of the 21st of July, I think would make a very bad impression to the whole of the world. So on a global, from a global point of view, everyone who's observing what happens in the Eurozone, I think would put some question marks into the credibility of European heads of state and government gathering, taking decisions, and then not being able to ratify in their member states in due time.